It is you.
Yeah, I suppose I don't, I mean, this is me and those are the characters I play, so it's interesting watching them all put together like that.
Are you okay looking at yourself on the screen?
If I'm made to, it's almost like if I desensitize myself early on when I start a film. If a director wants me to watch the playback a lot, then I can almost step back. But I mean, there's some films I haven't seen.
But there's got to be a sense of
because it's more the process for me. Obviously, for something like Rabbit Hole, I'm producing the film, so I have to really be involved and I have to wear two hats. But in terms of watching myself, no, that can be awkward, and I'm not necessarily the best judge as well.
But there's got to be a sense of pride after 20 years of an amazing career, and I use the term risk taker and a higher wire artist. You have, in 20 years, made amazing, risky choices, and there's got to be a sense of pride in looking at your work.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose now, at this age, when I start to look back, I say, gosh, I'm so glad I chose to do that. I'm so glad I went with that director, or there wasn't a script that I believed that he'd be able to do it, which was the case with Moulin Rouge. I mean, literally, Baz Luhrmann did not have a script. He's a great salesman, Baz. I don't know if he's ever been here before, but you should have him at the festival. He basically sold me on this idea of Moulin Rouge and showed me some pictures, and that was it. And and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for it with him. I knew his work from Australia, but that's a big leap of faith with a director, and I look back at that and say, I'm so glad I made that leap of faith.
But Nicole, you know, I've been obsessing about your career for preparing for tonight, looking at all your work, and you have taken some pretty daring choices. What is it? How do you pick up? Is it you're constantly looking to challenge yourself?
It's what I respond to. I mean, you know, in the height of, I think I was in the height of my career in terms of getting offered everything, and I chose to go into Dogville in Sweden. And people were shocked at that. I remember my manager at the time was saying, "You're going to do a thing where there's no walls? I mean, we've seen the test that he sent, and there's no walls. There's just going to be outlines, there's no set." And I said, "Yeah, isn't that great?" but I suppose, you know, that's what I was raised on as a child. I was raised on a lot of avant-garde theatre, and I was raised on ideas and philosophies. And I suppose that's what I'm drawn to ultimately. If I'm given an artistic choice, it's to work with people that are interested in philosophical questions. So I would say a lot of the films that are considered risky are actually films that are posing questions about the nature of humanity.
Am I right to assume that this Oscar nomination this year is a little more special than the ones in the past?
I think, yeah, I suppose I celebrated this more. I suppose I know what it means now, and in terms of my career, it's such a beautiful acknowledgement of the work and of the longevity of the career. And I'm just so, I mean, I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and she was sitting in the kitchen, and we were having our oatmeal. We eat oatmeal in the morning, and Keith's there getting the oatmeal, and she's sitting there. And then the Today Show was on, and suddenly they said, "Oh, and the Academy Awards could be just turned on the TV." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, now?" And Keith's like, I said, "They're announcing it on the Today Show." And he's like, "Oh, this is unbearable. What if you don't get nominated?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but said, turn it off, and poor Sunday, my daughters, and then suddenly they said my name, and Keith was like, yeah, and jumping around the kitchen, and Sunday's like, what's happening? Why are you crying? Because I'm suddenly crying, and she goes, why are we sad? And I said, no, we're not sad, Sunday, we're happy. So that will be my memory of this nomination, is my daughter looking and my husband jumping around the kitchen. So, and it's a lot.
I woke up at 2 a.m. thinking I wanted you to get nominated so bad. I paced in my bedroom for a couple hours. I'm embarrassed to say, but I was really happy.
Well, we were jumping around in Nashville, so.
The hours. One of the things that I'm so fascinated looking at is that you have the fake nose and you're wearing the makeup, but your eyes, there's like a in the gaze, there's like a death. You have such bright, vivid eyes, but then in the hours, there's. Is that something you worked on?
I mean, yeah, I think that Stephen Daldry is a magnificent director, and I made the hours at a time when I was incredibly depressed in my own life. And I think, he was able to put me into that role and knew that I could do it. I did not want to do it. I remember calling about a month prior to my agent, Kevin Huvane, saying, get me out of this. I'm so depressed. I can't get out of bed. I don't want to go work. I don't want to do anything. And he's like, I can't get you out of it, and Scott really won't let you out. Thank you, Scott. And so I had to show up in England, and I think my own inner turmoil was very much a part of the things Virginia was going through as well. So it's like sometimes that happens in life where the character in your own life somehow meet at that time. So it wasn't like I worked on having that. It was like it was just there. But I remember the nose. I remember when they were all worried to tell me, they were like, would you maybe consider, we were thinking some face alteration, maybe a nose. And I'm like, yeah, cool, I'd love to. And then they were fine, and we tested the nose, and I sort of walked around, and Virginia Woolf smoked a lot, so I started smoking, and they were like, quick, okay, this is great, we've got to shoot this, we've got to get going. So it was very, very fluid, and I think that happens with roles when it's just meant to be, it happens very easily, no matter how difficult it is, it's very fluid because everybody's working together. And I'm not someone that works well with people if there's a lot of yelling and stuff. I don't like that. But I love being where the performance is coaxed out of you and where you feel very, very safe. And I felt that on the hours. I felt very, very protected.
And what about the others, which is, I mean, it's one of the, for those who haven't seen it, it's one of the scariest movies ever. And your character totally unravels. It's amazing to watch the slow descent into madness. And what was it like working with Alejandro Amenabar?
It was great because I went to Spain and he didn't speak a lot of English at that stage, Alejandro. And so basically I arrived and I just finished Moulin Rouge. And suddenly I had to shift gears into this character, and once again I tried to get out of it because, my agents know, one of my agents is here tonight, it's a very good sign when I try to get out of something.
That's what I'm trying to say. Next time somebody tells me what it is.
But the reason I wanted to get out of the others was because I did not want to play a character that brutally murders her children. I suddenly went,
oh my gosh, this is the script. I do not want to play this. I can't do this. This is too terrifying to me. And so I tried to get it recast and couldn't. And then I had to go deep in and find a way to play the character. And the way I found it was that she doesn't kill her children. She smothers her children so that she can take them to a better place, because they have a terrible disease, which is the light disease, where they can't go outside, and she feels that it's so painful for them to be in the world, so she can take them to somewhere better. And in the weirdest way, then I was able to unravel the character. So she became this obsessive, mother, zealot, and she was, and that's how I was able to play the unraveling of the madness and why she did that particular thing.
But in Rabbit Hole, there was no fear of playing, this mother who's lost.
Huge fear, huge fear. And still have moments where it can hit me, that character, and when I see certain parts of it, it sort of almost jumps into me, and it's very jarring at times because it vibrates so closely to all of my fears still. But that's what I do, And when you're in drama school, you're given roles that are extraordinary roles that are written by the great playwrights, and you play, and by the Greeks. I mean, if you study the Greeks, you see the female protagonists in all of those plays. Most of them have, like Medea, oh my gosh, what a story, and terrifying to play. But that's what we do, that's what we're taught to do, and that's one of the great roles. So, and it also is, we're studying human nature, and for something like Rabbit Hole, it's treading into places that are so dangerous and so terrifying, and but people live them, and that's why I have to play them. If people can live them, the least I can do is play them with the deepest truth and authenticity that I can offer.
And to run forward, you have such great comic timing, but you seem to be mostly drawn to dramas, and
I just don't get offered comedies. I really don't. But I'm sort of, I tend to dramatic roles. I tend to get that's what I read and that's what I get offered more. So.
Well, they should see to that.
I love doing comedy because I pride myself on having a good sense of humor. So.
Well,
And that script, I have to say, Buck Henry wrote the script of To Die For, which.
And that's when someone did
It was an impeccable script. It was so brilliantly written and comedically, it's sung, so it was so easy to do it.
And you fought for that role, didn't you?
I kind of did. I called up Gus and I said, please, because I think I'd done Days of Thunder and I'd done a few roles, but I hadn't had anything that was really special. And in Australia, I'd had some great roles, so I was in that place as an actor where I was frustrated. And so I remember my agent saying, well, just give him a call. And that's not my strong thing, is calling people up. I hate talking on the phone as it is. So the idea of calling somebody I don't know and telling them why I should play a role. But I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. And he was actually lovely to me, and I just said, please, please trust me. I will promise you I will not let you down if you let me do this.
And he took a big risk on you.
Yeah.
And is that one of the reasons why you're taking big risks on John Cameron Mitchell?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, because I remember the people that took risks on me. I mean, we all need it. There's a point in our lives where we need somebody to take a risk with us, and I had that, and so I like to offer that to other people. I mean, we did that in Rabbit Hole with the boy who plays Miles, his name is, and he had auditioned and he hadn't really done anything before, so it was a big thing for him to get that role, and I think he did a magnificent job. So.
And working with Stanley Kubrick, the late genius Stanley Kubrick, you worked 400 days on that, supposedly.
I didn't. Tom did.
But
Poor Tom. I mean, he worked every single day on that film, and that's extraordinary. And that's, you know, incredible commitment. And I remember him just not wanting to let Stanley down, and just whatever it was going to take, it was going to take. So we stayed there, and we basically lived there. And our kids, when we left, had English accents.
And what was it working with Stanley Kubrick?
It was extraordinary because he was so not what you would think. Stanley was very, he seemed to me very normal, which says something about me, but, but he really just seemed like someone who just loves what he does, and he basically had taken himself to England and isolated himself so that he could do what he loved to do. And incredibly knowledgeable, but very willing to share and talk about it. And I would go into his office. He had a sign on his door saying, "No one's allowed to enter my office, ever." And then, so I, of course, would enter it. But he would let me, and he would let me sit on the floor, and he had books everywhere, and little bits of paper. It was the messiest office, and yet it was full of jewels. And I would just sit there. It was like being with some wonderful professor of cinema, but also of life. And I would just read and talk and ask him questions, and then he would go to the set and come back. And I remember halfway through the film, the DP suddenly left, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Stanley, this is terrible. You're going to get somebody else, a new DP." He's like, "No, I'm going to light it myself." And that's Stanley. And he did. He lit the whole film in, and he could fix cameras, he could fix the sound machines. I mean, he knew everything about every part of filmmaking.
Well, I just want to tell you that tonight's celebration is meant to be as an encouragement for the future, you know, because we've been so proud of everything that you've done, and look forward to many, many more challenges ahead in the future. So.
Thank you.
Please welcome senior writer at Entertainment Weekly, Dave Karger.
Thank you very much and good evening. And thank you, Roger and Nicole, for that conversation, which was equal parts riveting and adorable. I've had the pleasure of interviewing Nicole for all three of my employers, Entertainment Weekly, Access Hollywood, and the BBC. One of the more recent times that we saw each other was at the world premiere of Rabbit Hole up in Toronto. And when I was waiting for her on the red carpet of the film, I noticed that as she was doing her entire line of interviews along the carpet, she had her hand held with her husband Keith the entire time. Even though he wasn't actually doing the interviews with her, they had their hands clenched for the entire route of the carpet. And I thought to myself, wow, that's really the mark of a very devoted couple. A couple minutes later, I actually saw the film and realized they were probably holding on for dear life. The film is so devastating and so truthful that it's the kind of movie where you need all the support that you can get. So I understood why they had their hands held. But it occurs to me that that's been the hallmark of Nicole's career, taking on challenging roles and challenging us as an audience, and also making decisions, as we learned tonight, that you would not necessarily expect an actress to do. So for instance, just as she is gaining renown in Hollywood, she takes on To Die For. Or once she's becoming finally a big box office draw, she takes time off and goes on Broadway and does The Blue Room. And then when it's finally her time to have her name first in the cast of a big studio movie, what is that film? Moulin Rouge. And finally, when her face is able to sell movie tickets all across the world, she's willing to obscure it with that very famous prosthetic nose in the hours. But in almost all of the cases, it's really paid off. And if it weren't for To Die For, and if it weren't for the hours, there would be no Golden Globe, there would be no Academy Award. But what I find so interesting in the experiences I've had with Nicole over the years is that she's always remained down to earth. She's always retained that sense of normalcy. She is the very rare actor who, when you have a phone interview with her, she calls on time. Trust me, they don't usually, and I've commended you on that when we've spoken. And in fact, the last time we spoke on the phone was about a year and a half ago for 9. And one of the things that I will never forget is a great story you told me about how you had your daughter, Sunday Rose, on the set with you for that film. And she said to me, I have a photo of Sunday Rose with Sophia Loren holding her. And she said, I mean, oh my God. But really, that's also the hallmark of Nicole's career, is keeping that sense of normalcy. And in fact, Aaron Eckhart told me something very fascinating, that in between takes of Rabbit Hole, Nicole would often be found sitting at the kitchen table in the house where they filmed the movie, trading stories with the crew. But not only does that make her a great down-to-earth person, I believe it helps her acting. I think it's precisely because she's kept that profound sense of humanity that's enabled her to deliver strong performance after strong performance, culminating in what we saw a little bit of tonight, Rabbit Hole. So, Nicole, on behalf of the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, I would like to thank you for holding our hand for all of these years and taking us with you, because it has been an utterly fascinating ride. And it is a true honor for me to present you this year's Cinema Vanguard Award.
I just want to say thank you. I had no idea what to expect tonight, and I've been extremely moved. So thank you, Roger, Dave, for everything you said and the support, and I will take all of this encouragement, and I hope I will live to be a very old lady, and I will live to get to come back here and do something like this again, because it's, yeah, it really makes me want to pursue excellence. And so thank you, and thank you for showing up and filling this theatre and laughing and making me feel at home. I look forward to